All right, here we go.
Outfitting your tool belt. If you are preparing today, chances are you won't be repairing tomorrow. Tanya was one sharp girl. Her people skills were off the charts, and she knew it. Before she decided to enter full-time ministry, her profession of choice had been telemarketing. She was good at it. She went through the required support-raising training, but she wasn't really listening or taking notes. She assumed with her background and talents, she could skip over a lot of the laborious grunt work, as she called it, and just begin meeting with people. Who needs scripts, brochures, or PowerPoint slides when God had given her such a winsome personality, she reasoned. Instead of taking the days and days of painstaking preparation and the extensive role-playing of the various support-raising tools she had been asked to develop, she decided to go for it on her own. To her, it was a grand adventure of confidence and faith. To others, it was foolish, even arrogant. Once on the trail, in a different city, she ran into obstacles. Confused looks and unanswerable questions were everywhere. Her rosy predictions of instant success turned into a nightmare. People were not showing up for appointments because she had not confirmed ahead of time. Some were not impressed by her rambling, shoot-from-the-hip style of explaining her ministry. Others doubted the credibility of her organization and plans because she had not prepared any professional-looking materials. Now humbled, Tanya went back to the drawing board. She huddled with her supervisor to debrief and plan, then hid out in her apartment for the next 10 days, doing nothing but the 4 Ps: praying, planning, preparing, and practicing. Commit to lay the proper groundwork before you make that first phone call or have your initial appointment. The purpose here is to just give you an initial overview and rationale for the basic tools you will need to launch. As you prepare for impact, here are the 3 major parts to the process. Tool number 1, your phone script. Work hard on this. Craft it and recraft it. Practice it with others. Get their feedback. How does it sound? Too short, too long, personal? You can really hurt yourself by preparing improperly. As elementary as it may seem, have that script in front of you during your first 40 to 50 conversations. Until you get so familiar, so comfortable with what you want to communicate, you no longer need the help. As you create your phone script, understand you can say too much about money on the initial phone call, and you can also say too little about it. Too much. The reason I'm calling you is because I want to ask you to meet with me. During our appointment, I'm going to be asking you to commit to my personal financial support team for $100 to $150 a month. Too little. I just wanted to stop by and have some fellowship and share about our ministry and maybe some of our needs, but mainly just to catch up and ask for prayer. Just right. I would love to get the chance to sit down with you and share a bit about our ministry vision and financial goals. I'm going to be downtown later this week. I'm wondering if there might be a mid-morning or mid-afternoon slot somewhere in your schedule on Thursday or Friday that I could fit into. Beware. The more you say about money, the more likely they are to want to answer you right there on the phone, instead of meeting with you. The total purpose of the phone call is to get the appointment. At the same time, you don't want to sacrifice integrity. Not mentioning finances can be deceptive and may come off as a bait and switch. This will hurt your credibility. Tool number 2, your ministry presentation. You may want to incorporate all of this into a ministry portfolio, a small folder, binder, or notebook, with each page slipped into a clear sheet protector. Hire someone with graphic design skills to craft powerful, visually pleasing documents. Ideas to include in your portfolio: cover page, ministry vision and mission statement, history and overview of organization, needs or problems your ministry meets, story of a life impacted by your ministry, your personal or spiritual story, ministry action photos, your role and goals, levels of giving chart, commitment, response page, and referrals sheet. It's important to have an appendix section to refer to if needed. It should include a statement of faith, budget, and endorsements. Using technology in your presentation is good, but don't overdo it. Some support raisers get so enamored with their extensive computer-based presentations with all the bells and whistles, it can be very distracting. Instead of the appointment being a heart-to-heart time of sharing relationship and vision, it's reduced to humoring the Christian worker while they proudly click through their mountain of prize-winning slides. Your goal is not to overwhelm them, but to hit the exciting, visionary highlights of your ministry. You could go into hours of detailed explanation, but the polite smile on most people's faces will give way after 20 to 30 minutes, to their eyes starting to glaze over. Here are different parts of your presentation to work on. Your testimony and calling. Write out a long version of your personal testimony and your calling into ministry. Condense each into 3 succinct sentences. If there is any correlation at all between how or when you came to Christ and the ministry to which God is calling you, highlight that in your presentation. Your ministry vision. Whether you're a frontline missionary or a behind-the-scenes administrator, focus on hitting the big picture parts of your overall vision. Lift your ministry partner's eyes up and give them a bird's eye view of the eternal impact of the ministry God has called you to. Help them see how strategic it would be if they chose to direct some of their giving dollars toward this world-changing ministry. Always show how your ministry is part of touching the world for Christ. As biblical as leading people to the Lord and making disciples is, it's too small a vision. If your goals are not somehow related to reaching the whole world for Jesus, expand them. We must embrace his command to make disciples of all the nations. Matthew 28, verses 18 to 20. Story of a transformed life. Identify one person who has been impacted by you or your organization. Share their name and picture with your prospective donor. What is the one thing the friend you are meeting with will remember as they walk away? The face and story of that one transformed life. What will be the primary reason they will choose to invest in you? They believe there will be more transformed lives through you. Return on investment to most people means changed lives, not just meeting numerical ministry goals. One idea is to record on your phone a 1-minute video testimony of a person transformed by you or your ministry. Show it at your appointment. Simple, but very powerful. The story of a transformed life is a good place to transition to the ask. You've powerfully demonstrated your ministry is all about changing lives, and now you want to invite your prospective supporter to partner with you. The ask. As you set up your appointments, you need to decide in advance whether you are going to ask each person you meet with to join your team or to just pray about joining your team. There is a big difference. As you might guess, I recommend you ask them during the appointment to come onto your team. Then let them answer. They've been asked many questions in their lives. They can handle yours. You've worked hard to get this appointment. You've traded 4 to 5 calls, rescheduled once, and now you get a precious 40 minutes sitting across from this busy person. Don't waste it, and certainly don't assume you'll easily get another opportunity. Use those 40 minutes for all they are worth. Your prospective donors know why you're there. You haven't hidden anything from them. Go ahead, invite them to join your team. Be quiet and let them answer. You can trust the Lord that your God ask has been heard and that he is fully capable of directing that person's response. After you make the invitation to them to invest and become a ministry partner, it is between them and the Lord. Amen. But let's admit it, the toughest part of the appointment is that face-to-face ask. Sometimes it can feel like a bare-knuckled stare-down. If there was only a third party present, it might take a little of the pressure off. There is God himself. But I'm also referring to the ministry portfolio you bring with you. It allows you and your appointment to look back and forth between you and your documents. When I get to the ask, I point them to the levels of giving or log chart. Here are the different kinds. Monthly log chart. Center for Mission Mobilization. Join the team. 1 person at $750. 2 people at $500. 4 people at $300. 10 people at $200. 12 people at $100. 14 people at $75. Total, 43 givers, $7,200 a month. Almost without exception, my ask is composed of only one thing, a monthly commitment. Showing this chart and asking for a specific amount or range is not a hardcore ultimatum. No, in a loving, relational, sensitive way, I am just opening up a dialogue with them. It serves as a place to begin the conversation. The person is able to see from the chart that they can give more or less than the amount I suggested. Annual log chart. Annual giving partnerships. At the top of the pyramid, 1 brick, $10,000. At the next level, 2 bricks, $5,000 each. At the next level, 3 bricks, $2,500 each. And at the next, 4 bricks, $1,000 each. And at the base, 5 bricks, $500 each. Maybe the person you are meeting with receives their income sporadically and isn't able to make a monthly commitment. If so, you have an annual log chart available. Suggest a particular annual amount or two and ask if they would be willing to commit each year. I always ask what time of the year is best to approach them for this gift. I mark it down on my calendar to contact them every year on that date. Church log chart. Monthly church partnerships. At the top of the pyramid, 1 brick, $800. At the second level, 2 bricks, $600. At the next level, 3 bricks, $400. And at the base, 4 bricks, $200. You should have a few churches you want to approach. They too have no idea what it is you are wanting of them unless you tell them. Put a log chart together to present to the pastor or chairman of the missions committee. It can be a monthly and/or annual church log chart. Work hard on these charts. Think through the various levels and make them challenging but realistic. If you're only raising $3,000 per month, the highest gift level should be $250 a month. If you're raising $6,000 a month, you have 1 or 2 $500 a month slots. If you're raising $10,000 a month or more, include at least one $1,000 a month opportunity. Depending on the amount you are raising, I recommend at least 30 giving slots on your log chart, but no more than 50. People do appreciate you laying one of these log charts in front of them during an appointment. 2 reasons. They want to join a team. They don't just want to be account number 29078. They want to be part of a team, your team. They observe you have thought and prayed and customized your ask for them. You have showed them specifically what role they can play and how they strategically fit in. They want to do their part. The chart helps people gauge what portion of the total they should take. As they look over your log chart, they are privately running the percentages in their mind. They will determine what part of the whole is their responsibility. Regardless of their resources, a $500 a month commitment would seem too great a portion for someone only raising $3,000 monthly. Maybe they don't want you to have an unhealthy dependence upon them. But that same donor might justify a $500 or more monthly commitment for someone raising $6,000 to $10,000 monthly. Why? They want to help you. They want to be on your team. They want to get you to 100%. But they're also trying to discern what is their part to play. The log charts help them do that. The close. The fifth and last part of putting your ministry portfolio together is the close. How will you finish up your appointment? You must be super specific as to what the exact next steps are for you and them. Build yourself a flowchart and script out where you will take the conversation based upon what their response is. For instance, if they say, "Yes, we want to join your team," establish the amount each month or year they want to commit to. Establish when they want their giving to start. Establish how they are going to begin their giving: check, electronic fund transfer, or credit card. Ask if you can set that up for them right then, or if or when you need to come back. Determine whether you should also ask them to contribute to your ministry launching fund. Ask for referrals if needed. Give newsletter, get contact information, thank them. No, I cannot join your monthly support team. Determine if lowering the monthly commitment ask would be appropriate. Ask if they would be open to looking at your annual log chart and consider a yearly investment. Ask if they would be open to making a single gift to your ministry launching fund. Ask for referrals if needed. Give them a newsletter and thank them. Ask if they are open to receiving your newsletter and meeting again in a year about the ministry and possible support. Maybe. Let me think about it and talk to my spouse. Affirm them and get a specific day and time in the next 2 to 3 days that you can call them back for a decision. Give them a newsletter, get their contact information, thank them. If you've had people who said they would come on your team for $100 a month during your appointment, and 3 months later they have not started giving yet, don't get angry at them. Start with evaluating yourself as to whether you took enough initiative, in person or on the phone, to be very specific about what, when, where, and how they were to get started giving. Tool number 3, your phone script for a follow-up call. If you did ask them to join your team in the appointment and they did request more time for a decision, you need to initiate a follow-up call. During the call, you can thank them for the meeting and continue to build a relationship. But the main 2 purposes for a well-prepared follow-up call to someone who needs more time to make their decision are: to secure the giving decision. About half will give you their answer right there in the appointment. The other half will say they need to pray more, to talk to their spouse, or look at their budget. To determine exact next steps to begin giving. If you hang up from this call having left things nebulous, you will regret it. After rejoicing they want to partner with you, make it very clear how much, when to start, method of giving, and how to actually secure that first gift. I encourage you to drop back by their house or office to pick up that first check. You may want to pull out your laptop or smartphone, log on to the giving page, turn the computer toward them and let them type in their info, push submit, and they are officially on the team. I know all these details may seem confusing or feel overwhelming to you. I understand. If you will dedicate yourself to asking the Holy Spirit to fill and empower you as you faithfully and consistently pray, plan, prepare, and practice, you will see God go before you. Remember, He wants your support raised even more than you do. Note, we will provide a lot more practical details in chapters 22 to 26 on the initial call, the appointments, and the follow-up. Chapter 21, Crafting Your Schedule.
Well, what do y'all think about that?
I'm feeling really inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm feeling excited and I can't wait to do this. God is like even giving me things of what to put, like what to do, how to set up this portfolio. I've got like all kinds of ideas just in this chapter.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I really like this line here. If you dedicate yourself, asking the Holy Spirit to feel empowered, would you faithfully consistently pray, plan, prepare, and practice, should you see God go before you. Remember, He wants your support raised even more than you do. Because He's deeply concerned about everything that concerns us.
Yeah.
Glad He said that.
How about some of the specific details of this this big picture? Like you said, he kind of gave us a big picture view of some of the really practical steps in the process. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about some of these. So let's just talk about the phone script.
Are you gonna give us some samples?
Phone scripts.
Yeah, what's your phone script, Jeff?
My phone script.
Give
I
one
want
of
to
us
make
a
sure I'm on
call.
the right track here.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my. Oh, maybe I moved it already. Yeah, I'm also going to do my open door fellowship presentation. I'll need to update it, but as a sample, I'll just go ahead and give you my old one. Not right now, but when we get to talk after we talk more about that part. Where are we at? There it is. There it isn't. We'll come back to that. I'll keep looking for it. So what did you guys think about the part where he was saying it's possible to say too much or too little about money in the phone call?
That's a very true thing because people get lost and distracted quite easy. And I know that through sales, when I was doing sales, there is a point when you just gotta make your points and continue to go on because they lose interest. People lose interest and you can really get them off track where they're distracted into their own thoughts or you know, you don't want to blah, 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 blah. You want to get to the points and stress those really big pictures or whatever, you know, the big parts that you're trying to express to them. And you want to do it like that, you know? And I know that through selling a Kirby, like that's a really hard thing to sell. You know what I mean? But- Right. And I was, you know what? I used to sell Melaleuca too. That's a whole business. You know, like it's hard, but you really have to have that keeping them present.
Yes. Well, I think some of that relates to the presentation. I think the point more for the phone scripts is that that's
Oh,
gonna
for the
be,
phone script, yeah.
yeah, that's
So they
gonna
wanna
be,
keep it to like a 5 minutes or less kind of thing, or?
Yeah, you want to keep it somewhat short and sweet. I think the point that he's making about not saying too much or too little about money is more so kind of like I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week, but in a previous conversation, that what we don't want them to do is make their decision before we've had a chance to give them a presentation.
Yeah.
So if we set, so that's kind of what we risk by saying too much about money in that phone conversation. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if that's why we don't say too much, why don't we say too little?
they might feel like they're having to dig for answers. Like that in itself can be off-putting. It's like you're being sneaky, hiding something.
Okay, I think that last part is a little bit more specifically to the point. So why might it be considered or perceived as sneaky if we don't mention money when we ask them to meet with us?
Well, then there's a it's like, oh, now
That's
you're
why.
extremist on me now.
Right.
You're right. You were thinking all along.
Yeah, we don't want them to feel surprised when we ask them to support us. So it's kind of that fine line between not doing whatever we can to prevent them from making a decision right there, whether or not they want to support us before we've able to pitch our vision. But also, giving them a heads up that this is what this, meeting is gonna be about. So that they are prepared to hopefully make that decision in the meeting. If that's what God's, leading them to do. So, all right, very good. I'm just gonna show my phone script because it's a little bit complicated. Reading it to you might not make as much sense as showing it to you. So it's kind of like what he was just saying about the presentation where you kind of have a flow chart. So it's kind of like when you're, what would you say depending on the certain situation? So what I have is not really a flow chart, but it is, there's different options depending on if it's someone I know, if it's someone I don't know, if it's a church, that sort of thing. So hopefully this will make sense. You guys probably can't see that. Can you read that? At least towards the top. Okay. So, hello. So if it's a church or someone I don't know, I'll introduce myself. This is before when I was the administrative pastor. So hello, my name's Jared. I'm the administrative pastor at Open Door Fellowship Church. Do you have a minute? If they already know me or know my role, I might say, as you know. If not, I would say Open Door Fellowship is located in downtown Denver, and we primarily minister to people struggling with homelessness, addiction, poverty, and domestic violence. The reason I'm calling is to ask if we could meet up sometime so I could present a little bit about my ministry work and how you might be able to partner with me. Would you be willing to meet in the next week? It should just be about an hour or so. So then here's kind of more like the flow chart. So if they just say, no, I don't want to meet with you, then it's kind of like a last ditch effort to ask them over the phone if I don't have an opportunity to meet with them in person. Whoops. Where does I don't know where the abbreviated presentation is. Anyways, if they want to meet with me at them, I would just ask what, when would work for them, and we make an appointment. So one of the things that I'll talk more about is being clear on the details, directions, date, time. The last thing you want to do is well, first of all, forget the appointment yourself because you didn't
Write it down.
write it down or clarify it. You don't want to risk any confusion about when and where you're going to meet. You want them to know and not forget. So pretty simple. And then I said, awesome, looking forward to it. Talk to you later. So pretty simple, and it's probably even more simple when I actually would do it. So if it's someone that already knows this information, I probably would just skip that. If it's someone that isn't familiar with this at all, I would just say this. If it's someone kind of in the middle, they might have some awareness, but I feel like they need to sort of be reminded of why, I would be meeting with them. I might include that whole section. So basically just a greeting. What would I would say if I needed to present the ministry in a very brief way, and then just getting straight to the point, asking them if they'd be willing to meet. So where do you see my mention regarding money in here?
We're going to be partnering with.
Yes.
In general, I think people understand what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
You know,
This is a little bit of a risky thing. I haven't looked at this in 2 years, so I'm just kind of analyzing it right now. So, I might tweak this a little bit, but I could make it more clear by saying financially.
But you're saying up there, I want to present my ministry vision and financial goals. You could probably make that over.
So yeah, I don't know. I kind of tried to make this sound like what I would actually say if I was talking like I normally talk. I don't want, I just always hate to come across I guess I do have a more formal tone that I can adapt, but usually I don't use that kind of terminology. I want to discuss my financial goals with you. It's so I'm trying to write a script that sounds like how I would actually talk.
What about a contributor?
Yeah,
How you contribute to.
Contributing partner.
I think that would be more clear. I think part of the reason why I use this terminology is thinking of a partner as someone who does give, but hopefully is not just a contributor in the sense that ideally we would want them to buy into the ministry that they're supporting us with, and giving might just be a part of how they might get involved.
Right.
So something he's going to talk about more is, getting partners involved in volunteering or being informed for needs that they could be praying for, or different things like that. So that idea of partnership, I think it can have those connotations, but it's also just casting a vision for, them being involved. Even if it is just financially, still, you're not just giving money, you're investing in the kingdom of God. You're partnering with us for this kingdom work. So I don't know, there's lots of terminology, I'm sure it would be fine, but anyways, so not to spend too much time on this at the moment, but that's that. And if you guys want to refer to that with when we actually sit down to write our phone scripts, we can pull that back up. Let me get back to wherever my book is. This. So other thoughts on the phone script? We're
You
gonna,
need to include that, you'll follow up with them. And it says something about following up, just to put that in there. That you call them in 3 or 4 days.
okay, yeah, that's gonna be a whole nother phone script, but yeah, you're right. So at the end, and I shouldn't have turned this off because I have one of those phone scripts as well. So there's a phone script for the inviting them to meet with you, and then yes, there is a second phone script for following up. So that's specifically if they don't make a decision while you're meeting with them in person, and to finish up. So something that's really important to emphasize is that I'm going to say it this way, your responsibility, I would say our responsibility, but I want it to be clear that it's not my responsibility to get your supporters, to process their donations successfully. Ideally, it's your responsibility to be able to help them to do that. Of course, especially on the front end, while we're kind of figuring things out, I will be available to help. I've already done that a couple times. But ideally, you guys are going to be equipped to handle that for your supporters, to answer their information, or their questions like, who do I write the check to? How do I give online? All that stuff. Does that make sense?
Contact names to the business office, if we have technical issues or anything like that, there'll be a couple people we could call. In the main office.
So are you referring to like Open Doors office?
Well,
Or
whoever it is that who set up this system, it's like, if we have questions about why it doesn't work or what maybe we're doing wrong, we're gonna have somebody we can call.
that would be me at this point.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Possibly.
Technology and me do not get along.
Okay,
I'm just telling you right now.
I understand.
So
Do you mean like a standby person when you're setting up an account?
well, yeah, if I have a technical issue and it's not processing or something, because everything goes wrong for me. I just know.
You know
that I'm
what,
going
stop
into it.
speaking that, so everything will go right in Jesus'
Okay.
name.
Go on
You know,
now.
when we speak that, that's gonna happen.
So what if you need extra help, figuring out the website and stuff like that, we can definitely do that. And I'm just, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely available to help with support. And Janet, our bookkeeper, might also be willing to help out with some of that. I just don't want to commit her to that because I haven't really discussed that part of it with her, but
At the end of every month, he gets a detailed,
mhm,
printout on his, of who contributed and what the amounts are and everything
Right.
like that. And then that's way he can see if his supporters are still on there. Sometimes they drop off and he doesn't know why, so he has
Right.
to, he goes, do I contact the office or do I contact the supporter? And so he's like, I don't want to call the people that are supporting me and thinking that, okay, well, this organization doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
or, Well, okay, you just,
So, yeah, so just a little bit of information on that. So we are using the same database software as Open Door does. So it'll still have that functionality of a report.
right,
Now, that's not to say that these first couple of months, we might not also have some things to figure out, Open Door's been doing this for, who knows how many years. So obviously there might be some things, that we're gonna have to sort out in the beginning, but we are planning to do those monthly reports. And at this point, I'm the one who's kind of, the point person to talk to. Hopefully, I will have other people to support me as we move forward. Possibly, my dad's been somewhat involved, but I don't know that he's familiar enough at this point to be kind of a person to ask for help. And same with our bookkeeper. She's volunteering her time, so I want to respect what she's committed to as opposed to like adding extra stuff at this point. So yeah, at this point, I'm your business office contact. And it really is straightforward. I feel like, so I've already had one supporter reach out to me and just say, hey, the website's really easy. We just, set up our donation. I had another supporter reach out to me and just wanting to verify that they did it right. And I was able to verify that and let them know, yes, you're set up. These are the details.
and you go over all this with us when we get to that point on how. What it's
Yes.
gonna look like. And
Mhm.
how-
One thing that you can do is start to familiarize yourself a little bit by following. Has everyone checked out the website yet? Our school
Yes.
ministry website? No? I'll share that with you again. Robin, I just sent it to the group message a long time ago, but as you know, it's buried in about
I think
50 texts since then. But I'll just, has anyone else not checked it out yet?
I checked it on my phone.
Okay,
When we first started, before you even set up accounts and stuff, so you might have modified it or something.
it should be pretty much the same, but Robin, if you would just be willing to check it out when you have a chance and just take a first step to familiarize yourself with it. And then
Yeah, 'cause
that way, when we go over it together, it won't be the first time you're seeing it. Sometimes repetition helps us to get familiar and comfortable with things.
it was on our first group thing and we've deleted.
Right.
This is like the third.
So that's fine. I just sent it individually to you.
Perfect, yeah.
So not a problem, but anyway, so yeah, that's one thing we can do to just be familiarizing ourselves. And with that website, I would say not only familiarize yourselves with the giving platform, but also browse some of the other information on there, because that's things that you can be using to, give them kind of the introductory information to the school when you give your presentation. So shifting over to the presentation now, and this is something that we're going to go into a lot more detail in future chapters. He kind of gave us some sections of your presentation. So notice you have your testimony and calling, your ministry vision, ideally, story of a transformed life, and then the ask. Then he kind of gets into some little bit of information on the log chart and kind of the details on that, and then the close. So I guess it's actually five sections. I would consider the log chart as part of the ask. So any questions or comments on any of those? that's kind of like a way to think of your presentation outline. That you could already be starting to work on.
I think I'm changing my budget to the 6,000 mark.
Okay, whatever you gotta do.
No, I'm not.
No, we might have to get that approved.
I wouldn't even know what to do with that.
Well, you could just donate a substantial portion of it right off.
Hey, my dream.
Yeah. Has everyone given a formal presentation of their testimony at some point?
Yes.
Are you saying here?
Anywhere along the way?
Yes.
Yeah. So, no? Okay. So if you haven't, I would say it'd be good to start writing that down. Take some time. How would you, and you can customize it for this, but what, prayerfully considering what would God have you to share as far as your journey to Christ. And then notice he says, write out a long version of your personal testimony and your calling into ministry. So there's those two parts. Condense each into 3 succinct sentences.
Wow.
Wow.
So-
Write a book. and
so
then
those-
you present
Yeah,
it.
those of you who've already written it, you got your work cut out to make it 3 sentences.
The Bible.
Give or take, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 to 4 sentences. Okay, we'll give you some wiggle room. But kind of to your point earlier, Crystal, you don't want to bog them down with the life story. But you do want to share that, if it's someone that doesn't already know that.
And that'd be ministering to us.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the word of our testimony is a huge part of our ministry. And especially notice that he says, if there's a connection that can be made between your testimony and your current ministry, emphasize that. So part of my testimony is homelessness and addiction. So I emphasize that I love that I get to, help people who've are struggling with the things that I struggled with. And I even take it a step further because I say, when talking about Open Door Fellowship and its unique role in the community of ministries that we work with, Open Door Ministries, Providence Network, etc. How I usually present that is like, Open Door Fellowship works on the spiritual needs of the people. There's other ministries that help with housing needs and other practical needs. But what I love about what I get to do is that I get to focus on helping people with their relationship with Christ as the primary way that I can contribute to their ability to, overcome addiction, homelessness, whatever that might be. And so I tie that into my testimony because, I never went through a program or the 12 steps or any of that stuff when I was getting out of addiction. What rescued me was Jesus. My relationship with Christ is the factor that made the difference for me. So I think it's great that there's these programs and everything, but I say I love that I get to help people with their relationship with Christ because that's how I was. That's what transformed my life. So anyways, something along those lines, emphasizing that connection. So we already got a couple of homework assignments. We got a phone script we can be working on. We have a testimony we can be working on. How about calling? Who would say you're ready to put the experience where you recognize that God had called you to do ministry? who would say you're ready to put that in 3 sentences?
3 sentences?
3 sentences?
I probably.
2 to 4 sentences. In other words, what I'm saying is, do you have a grasp on how it was that brought you to this point? Whether it was, in the last few months or years ago, when that moment that you realized that God had called you to serve in his kingdom, to minister in the body of Christ. So that's something to be thinking about and making note of. Now, usually the calling kind of ties in with the ministry vision. So at this point, I felt called to do that. Although it doesn't always happen that way. For me, it was like I felt called to do something. And then 20 years later, I think I have more of an idea of what that is now. We're still trying to focus in on that. No, I'm partially kidding, but I would say 10 to 15 years of very vague, like I'm called to do ministry. I'm not sure what exactly that is or what God meant by what he said when he told me, but so you want to try to clarify that as much as you can as we move forward on working on our presentations. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, one thing that we've already started talking about a little bit is that ministry vision section is going to be a combination of the vision of telos and how you personally relate to that in the big picture of what God's called you to do, specifically for this season. Any questions on that part? So we're talking about testimony, calling, ministry vision. Now, story of a transformed life is a much smaller part compared to what those first 2 sections. So those first 2 sections that we just discussed are the majority of your presentation right there, right? What I with the story was I just prayerfully made a list of people to reach out to. And I even still have this written down, what I said to him. So I made a list, and I don't remember if I emailed or texted him, but I reached out to this list of people. I said, as you may know, I'm responsible to raise my own support. These funds make up the majority of my salary at the church. I would like to ask you to write a short paragraph describing how God has used, I emphasize that, how God has used my ministry efforts to bring transformation in your life. Consider including specific areas of your life where you have experienced spiritual growth. Also, if there was anything in particular, for example, a certain part of the discipleship lessons, etc., that God used to make these changes in your life. So also include that. This would mean so very much to me, no pressure. So I just sent that off to about, I don't know, looks like maybe 10 people. And got a few responses. And then, so some of those can be used for like newsletters or different things like that. Then I prayed about who I should ask to be willing to kind of put that into a video testimony format. So then was able to get someone to agree to that. And so then, just asked them to be ready, give them whatever time they needed to prepare and feel comfortable with that. And then, yeah, just recorded them with my video. Like he said, a 1-minute testimony. I think the one I did was 1 or 2 minutes. So it's not a huge part of the overall presentation, but as far as time wise, just a couple of minutes, and it's really not something that you are going to, not something you're going to need to spend necessarily a whole lot of time on, but it can make a big difference in the effect of the presentation. In fact, this guy claims that that's the main thing that they're going to think about when they're choosing to support you is the specific instance of someone's life that was transformed and the hope that there's more of those people on the way if you continue to do what God's called you to do. Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible that maybe to use like a short video or saying like 1 or 2 minutes for people that I've known all the years that I've been here, that they can speak on my behalf, like Lena or Miss Bernie or something like that? Or do I really have to like think about a person that I've influenced? Or what do you think?
Well, I would say the first thing that you mentioned is not really what we're looking for or what's suggested here. Does that mean it's a bad idea? Not necessarily. You could pray about it.
Okay.
But I would say that, it's a little bit different when you're just starting out, as opposed to by the time I got around to doing this, I'd already been working at the church for about 4 or 5 years. So I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the things that they said is, where was that? Identify one person who has been impacted by you or your organization. So if you don't have a person, that would be a good fit for, that you were able to minister to. I would say we could probably work on a video testimony for, obviously Telos hasn't been around very long, but maybe the discipleship curriculum or something along those lines, and just phrase it in a way that kind of helps, that doesn't confuse partners, with like, well, this person was, an open door, but it was kind of the same thing. And it was, so we'll just make it clearly, a clean cut presentation that just makes the point that the same kind of ministry that we're doing is what benefited them, and saying that in a way that doesn't confuse them as much as possible.
Okay, I just had somebody come to my mind. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was going to be my question, just more generally, because obviously that would be something I would probably need to help with. But would anyone feel like that they might need to use a more general testimony from, past discipleship ministry from the curriculum or something along those lines?
Like from like Mr. Chris or something like that, are you talking about?
I'm saying like
Or Dale?
basically using one of my testimonies
Okay.
from the standpoint of like, kind of like you said, you want a testimony that speaks to either the ministry that you have, that God has accomplished through you, or if not you, again, if and most people in this scenario are just starting out, right? You're raising your support when you're just getting started, or most of these people that are in this kind of ministry that he's talking about, they're raising their support before they even get started. So that's where I think he's saying, or your organization. So they're supporting you and your in this organization. So you'll want a testimony, if not from your ministry experience, from the organizations. And I'm just suggesting that since Telos as an organization is fairly young, I think it fits the same kind of point if it was a testimony from the curriculum that we're using, if that makes sense. So like I'm saying, I would be willing to try to work on that if anybody would like to use that. Yes.
I'm not very good at, so I don't know if I really want.
Well, let me just ask, does anybody want me to try to figure out a more general testimony for you to use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Moving on. Yes, ma'am.
May I jump a little ahead or no? Are we gonna get to?
Well, how far ahead are you gonna jump?
Long chart?
My book closed, so
Oh,
was there something else? No, I think that's about next. We're talking, next thing is the ask. So sure, let's talk about the log chart.
well, I'm not good at math, not even one tiny bit. So I could never go and break this down in any kind of ways, or somebody that can help me with that, or do you have a way to do that? So-
I can help you with that. I can give you a copy of something Pastor Dale gave me. And if you like.
Well, let's just talk about it right now. I got one that I could put on the board or on the, whatever you call it, screen.
So this is his monthly goal. Four, 6, 8.
No signal. Yeah, right. Got all the signal you need.
You don't know your times tables.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
So here's
Wrong.
something.
Ruh-roh.
I don't know why that did that.
Sign off.
Okay.
Hit the box.
So here's what you need.
Okay.
You need a monthly goal.
Uh-huh.
You want to pray about a minimum and a maximum. So like he was suggesting, your maximum should be appropriate to your goal. So you got, help me out, because I don't have the thing in front of me. Whoop. So he said like for 6,000, well, I'll just try to look it up here. For 6,000, he was saying it might be like 500. Nobody knows what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Was it last time that we talked about that? When was that? Oh, no, here it is. So right after the log charts. So look right after the monthly church partnerships. Which is page 112. Work hard on these charts.
Okay.
Think through the various levels and make them challenging but realistic. If you're only raising $3,000 per month, the highest gift level should be $250. Okay. Now, you don't just need to take his word for it. You can pray about it, obviously, but that might be something to take into consideration. And he said like 6,000 would be 500. So I'm somewhere in between. I'm shooting about 4,500. So the top
There you go.
was 400, 2 at 400. So that's kind of taking his recommendation. I'm still searching for those two people around here somewhere. I do have a couple at 250. In actuality, most of them are about a 100. That's probably the average supporter. So if you're doing less than 3,000, it might be like 200. So all this to say, find your top, find your bottom. And then just what makes sense to have as increments in the middle. And it makes sense to kind of have like a pyramid type of a thing, although it doesn't have to be that. So do the math. And once you do the math, we can just use this slide for each of you to kind of customize your own, unless you want to make it look different than this. Doesn't look quite like that on my computer, but looks like Dale used mine for his. So we can get you up, set up with something. If you want different
And then if
people.
and then so you'll help us to like do the annual log and then the church.
Sure. I never used them, but they're there if I ever need them. Got little churches for my church log.
Very nice.
I do have a couple churches on my list. One of these days I might ask them to support me. One of these days, real soon.
Uh-oh.
Because you guys know I'm gonna be hitting the appointments at the same time that you guys are, because I have some support that I need to raise, as well as contacting all my previous supporters to get them to switch over or invite them to switch over. Say,
So you haven't done that
I'm fine.
already?
no,
Is that a little late?
it's just in time. The elders gave me until the end of March to
Oh.
get switched over. So
Oh, good.
I just figured it made sense for me to be doing that while you guys meet with your potential supporters. Because here in a couple weeks, once we finish our presentations and ready to go, we're gonna redo our daily schedule and give you guys time to go set 8 hours worth of appointments each week or more if you want to do it. Does it make sense why this chart is a very helpful tool?
Yeah, really makes sense.
Visual.
I think this has been really helpful.
Yes.
Why is it so helpful?
Well, I love her energy. Well, at least for a man, we're visually oriented. And stuff like this is so appreciated. Oh, I know when someone gives me something like this, it feels like I'm able to take ownership. You know, and, I will respond to this quicker than off the book. You know, shoot from hip presentation.
Kind of gives that person a range of possibilities of donations,
Yeah,
you know, where they can fit in. And they're not just pigeonholed into one particular number, but there's slots, a lot of slots, and there's just a, and it just kind of shows just how big this ministry is and how much support is really needed.
sure.
You know, you don't want to plan their sympathy, but it's like, hey,
So what do you think? Oops, I just realized I got a typo on here. What do you think would happen if I had $25 down here
They're gonna pick it up.
and about $200 up here? What do you think my average gift might be? Well,
or 50.
if my average gift right now is 100,
50,
and let's say I went 25, 50, 100, 150, 200,
So probably 50.
my average gift would probably be about $50 a month.
People don't want to seem cheap, but then they don't want to go too hard.
So you're almost saying like helping them to, here's your menu, like, of course, they can order off the menu if they want, but it kind of sets them up within a certain range to kind of hopefully move them in the right direction here. I think it's been really made a big difference in my support.
We have people that give annually or twice a year or quarterly. It's, you know, it's not necessarily much.
Right.
So there's a few people who do that as well. They're gonna just write you a larger check a couple of times a year.
Especially because it's a tax write-off, and if they do their taxes, quarterly or whatever, that's like.
So I'm not one of them, so. I'm the one who has those.
I'm determining that right now. My taxes are-
Actually, we did some. Stations.
Any other thoughts on the log chart? So
No, but when I think about it, I get anxiety.
you get anxiety?
Yes, because I'm not a math person.
Okay.
I'm a person that likes to write songs and sing. And dance, I don't.
Who told you-
I don't have a brain.
Who told you you weren't a math person?
Me.
Okay,
'Cause I don't like
why would
that
you lie to
language.
yourself like that?
Because I don't like it.
I know, I'm just trying to be real quiet.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm already.
She's about ready to jump on that boat. I know you were.
Your
You're
words,
Um,
your words are important.
Well, and it's not just the words, because the words are just reflecting what's in your heart.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so I don't like, I don't
So-
like math at all.
Okay,
But it's
are you
your
willing to
perception.
do some
You need to
math
change
if
your
God,
perception.
if what God's called you to do would include math?
Okay,
You'd be willing to open up a little bit to that?
okay, I have to get out the little elementary school books. I'm just joking.
Well, you got a calculator on your phone.
I love to go back there.
You gotta calculate what they're from.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to do that. I mean, I
Oh,
know.
come
I know how to
on.
do that. I don't know how to, I
No.
don't know how to put the stuff, what to put in the calculator. I don't know the system. I don't know the system at all.
All right, well, I'll be happy to sit down.
Someone
with
will
you.
work with you
And,
Yeah.
when
We're
you
sure.
know your amount, then we can work. it
You
out.
do math every day, even if you just go to the grocery store and trying to figure out how much bread you
Does she
need.
know- can you figure out 25% off of something?
No, I don't care to even think about it.
okay, so can I,
I can do that like.
can I ask you guys to,
And I'm glad that you guys can. I can't, okay? I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm just not.
Don't be sorry, you're all right.
Yeah.
You're all right. We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
so just to, in order to make this process as smooth as possible, if you, especially if you are wanting to use my little slide and redo it for your purposes, as much as possible, try to do the math ahead of time, and that way, when we get to this part, everybody's got their numbers figured out. We can just copy and paste and not recreate the wheel every time. So I'm just want to encourage you guys to take as much responsibility as you can for your part, and then I'll help with as much as need be from there. Yes, ma'am.
Use your past experience. You're so dope.
Why are you even bringing that up?
That because
That is
you're
bringing up my
dealing.
past, honey.
Oh my
I don't wanna
gosh.
talk about that. That is the old me, the old brand new, I'm a new creation in
It's
Christ.
still
I'm a
math.
new creation in Christ. I don't even want to
Oh
think
my
about
God.
that.
Be at peace in Jesus' name.
Wow.
Both of you, please.
Wow. You did math at Domino's.
Brenda, can you leave me alone, please? I know that whatever you have to say to me is not really, I know whatever's in your heart, leave it there, okay? I don't want to hear it. Personally, I don't want to hear it, okay? If you need to say something to me, let's go in the hall.
No, I don't have any.
Okay,
information to
good.
say to you.
Thank you.
So are you looking to get?
Actually,
Somebody at the door? Oh,
There is a
Jimmy.
big- there was, I think, just down there.